Well, I have to take a deep breath after that presentation. Glenn, you're very brave to take all of that on. Oh my gosh, I remember when the food safety issues first came out, and I did actively respond and give my input, especially for responding for small acreage farms and the importance of those exemptions being made for those of us that are small acreage. Um, I don't think I have, oh yes I do. The, yeah, it's overwhelming. That last picture you had with the farmer with his head in the computer is kind of about how I feel right now after listening to all of that. Thankfully, all I can say is for the exemptions, and that's what I'm pushing for, and that's what I've written my congressman about, is maintaining those exemptions for small acreage farmers. And when it comes to defining that term by USDA, it does have to do with the amount of money that you make, and that's less than 500,000. So I don't think I'm ever going to have to really worry about that in particular. But take a deep breath. Don't panic from those rules and regs, because along with all of the things that we've been going through in the last 8 weeks, one of the reasons why you've signed up to take this course is to empower yourself to gather information and review all of these course materials that are going to take you to a place that you go into your farming enterprise fully conscious of what the rules and regs are, because the times we get ourselves in trouble is when we ignore that and just move forward without looking into it. And truly, more than ever, we as a population need to be focusing on our food system and growing a food system that can feed our local communities, and all of this has to do with the food safety practices, because none of us wants to make anyone sick. So I get to take you to talk about post-harvest handling and food safety practices in a little bit of a different light than Glenn. Without we're still talking about regulations, but I'm going to focus primarily on post-harvest handling of produce. And when we think about this, I don't know, we spend months working in our fields, in our market gardens, whatever we happen to have growing, to create a bountiful harvest of fruits and vegetables for our customers. And of course we want to ensure that our family and our customers are going to be able to enjoy this as a healthy harvest, and that's really up to us to make that happen. So we need to look closely at how we can best maintain the quality and the safety of our produce as it travels from the field to the table. We need to look at how we store that produce when it comes out of the field, if we're not going to sell it immediately. And ultimately, it's crucial that we acknowledge that the quality of our produce and the shelf life that we have for that is very much a result of sound production practices, but it's very much a result of proper handling during the harvest and appropriate post-harvest handling and storage. I can tell you that for the produce that we harvest, and one of the reasons why we have loyal customers, is that I guarantee everything that I deliver 100%, and I've told you this before, and a part of that 100% guarantee is that has to do with my post-harvest handling practices. So I treat my vegetables in a way that they're going to store well and that lettuce is going to stay crispy. And part of that is making sure that I harvest them at the proper maturity when they're at the peak of their flavor and nutrition. So there's a lot of different thoughts on this. When we do our post-harvest handling, one of the things, absolutely, harvesting during the cool part of the day, that's really a wonderful thing to do, but as the season progresses and the harvesting is on, we're harvesting all day long. So one of the things that I've found as a good tip for you, which I may have shown some slides of this before, in the spring, when the beach umbrellas come out at the local drugstore, I buy these beach umbrellas that are designed to set down in the sand to keep you shaded on the beach, but they work fantastic in the field. So I keep about 10 of these down in the garden and in the shed, and during the peak of the harvest season we use the umbrellas not only to shade ourselves but to shade the produce, because we try to harvest during the cool part of the day, but when we get into July and August, that cool part of the day is kind of restricted. So one of the things in looking at that handling and the post-harvest from the field, we really need to look at the production costs plus the post-harvest handling, the packaging, the cooling, the transportation, the marketing costs, and these are all the same for you whether your fruits and vegetables and flowers leave the farm and are sold, or if you consume them or not. So ultimately it's important that we want to provide the best that our gardens have to offer. So why not take the time to do that right? It's more cost effective, and it feels a lot better to you to have that, to be providing that quality product to your customers. So let's talk a little bit about containers. Fresh fruits and vegetables once were thought to be relatively free of disease-producing pathogens, and after listening to Glenn, you know that everything you want to do is illegal and can kill you. However, the best thing that we can do is make an effort to reduce those disease-producing pathogens. And the bottom line, as what Glenn referred to, in recent years, the outbreaks of foodborne illnesses linked to fruits and vegetables have become more common, and that is why all these rules are in place. It happens with the Certified Organic Program. Each time if there's an outbreak, if anything happens, there's new rules to be made. It happened on the sideline at our farmers market. Each time something happens that's an issue at the farmers market, we make a new rule. That goes the same with food safety. That goes the same with most laws and legislation. It only takes one outbreak of Salmonella or E. coli to have things change. Well, those outbreaks of Salmonella and E. coli that occurred in apples in recent years, and we had a spinach outbreak. Spinach and sprouts, I think, both were organic products, and when that happened, that affected our organic regulations. Certainly the food safety aspect of that. But oftentimes these outbreaks with Salmonella and E. coli are caused from improperly composted manure, the irrigation water containing manure, or contaminated wash water. And we'll talk about the composting portion later. In this photo you see we just use these, I believe these are 20-gallon tubs that we use for, as soon as our greens come from the field, they go into cold water. Ideally with those bins, and for us, we are not only certified organic producers and have to submit, I just submitted my organic plan yesterday, we also are organic handlers and processors. And we have to fill out that, go through that process as a handler and processor, because we wash our produce and we put it in a bag. If we didn't put it in a bag, we wouldn't have to do that. But we find that our produce stays fresh longer when it's in a bag, and we can charge a little bit more for it to make up for the cost of the bag. But we also find that our customers really like having a product that no one else has touched. So in the process of keeping everything clean, and this goes with the certified organic standards for handling and dealing with our produce, we just simply use a tablespoon of chlorine bleach per gallon of water to clean out those plastic tubs or any kind of food containers that I'm going through the process with. And I may let that soak for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I will pour that out and fill it with clean, fresh water from our well, and go through that process every time we use our tubs for cleaning our produce. We use some cardboard boxes, like the low crate boxes, for harvesting squash in the field and peppers and a few things. But if we're using cardboard boxes, we only use boxes that have been used for certified organic produce, so that there's not a cross-contamination of certified organic versus non-certified organic. We set up, one of the things is it's really important that you do not do your vegetable washing in your kitchen sink. You need to set up a vegetable washing station that's separate from your kitchen, and that's a simple thing to do. We set up a mosquito tent, which is, you can get a nice size 12 by 12 mosquito tent that's in pretty decent shape, and we usually get about 3 years out of them. So we set up a mosquito tent for the entire season that keeps the insects out. It's a separate space. You can see in this photo we have just a standard commercial sink, and then our tubs that we use for soaking our produce in are set up off the ground. We drain the water away from that area. There's some tables in there and going through that process, but just basic food safety it's crucial that you do this, that you're paying attention and you're conscious of this at all times. In this picture, she's washing that lettuce not inside a tent, and I think this was before we had the tent set up, and we ended up setting up the tent once we signed up and applied to be handlers, and that kind of changed the regulations. But for the vegetable washing station, we do post signs as a part of that process, and wash your hands, wash your hands. We are always reminding our apprentices and whoever might be volunteering on the farm to wash their hands, because really, aside from contaminated surfaces, human hands that come in contact with whole or cut produce really are the most potential points for cross-contamination throughout the food system. Whether you're grilling, harvesting, packaging, processing, shipping, preparing produce for consumption, it's important to wash all produce well and do that with clean water. And we post these wash your hands sign inside the screened tent where the vegetable washing station is. We post them, we have an outhouse, we post them in there, but we also have running water and a toilet in the house. So when they use the outhouse, we make sure that they go back into the house to wash their hands, and that's you'd think that'd be a no-brainer, but you got to remind people sometimes, because